Alright, welcome back to Becky Amio Horse Training and ride number 19 on LR Blue Ambrose. We are going to head out today. We're going to walk through the cows a little bit and then out to the creek pasture. We did not warm up at all today. We've ridden 3 days in a row now. This makes ride number 4 in a row. This guy's getting really tired. He's down to the last couple days of his training with me before he gets kicked out for a few months. So here we go. Let's go get after it and see what kind of horse we have and see if he's going to be happier riding out today. Chuckweed, get out in front. Charlie, get out in front. So this is where I get a little bit more lenient about bending their head around both directions and having them stand still when I first get on. When they're struggling standing still in these beginning rides like this, or ever, something to think about even on your broke 10-year-old horse. When it's multiple days in a row, sometimes I attribute not standing still to being a little bit body sore. This colt very well could be sore up over his top line through his withers and not wanting to stand still real good for me. Could be that he's fresh. Could be kind of a mixture of things. So it's not always just that they're being naughty and you're going to pay for it after you get up there and he's going to spook and run off with me. It's not that at all. There's lots of different factors there. And if I'm ridden him 3-4 days in a row like this, my concern is not that he is going to run off with me at this point. He's proven to be pretty reliable up to now, and I truly think it's just probably a little bit of body soreness. So all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and work him through the cattle, just walk him around, expose him a little bit. When I started training for cutting horse trainers and I was starting colts for them, I was always concerned about how I introduced horses to cattle the first time. And they pretty much told me that there really wasn't anything I can do wrong at this point. Just getting them used to them, walking through them, maybe tracking a few around. They told me I wasn't going to hurt anything by doing that, so I always try to do that anyway, but obviously especially with cutting horses. And anyway, this is all where these cows get fed right here. These are all their feeders set up for them, and it's all stuff that he's going to have to get used to anyway. Might as well walk him through all of it. I have a lot of horses that do spook at these tires for whatever reason. But once they've walked through them a few times, they don't bother them anymore. And it's just something they're going to see if they ever go in a trail class. Or it's just something they're going to see when they go to town. They're going to see lots of different things that they're going to have to be okay with. If I can, I'll try to isolate 1 or 2 cows and just track them around, move them out away from the herd a little bit, see how he handles pushing them away. I do this with everybody, and a little bit of trotting never hurt them. That's kind of when you see what they can mentally handle when a cow starts moving out in front of them a little bit faster. And then Charlie got everybody worked up and everybody hightailed it into this other dry lot over here, and this guy handled that really well too. I was really pleased that he was okay with all the commotion. And here again is an opportunity to work a gate with him. This gate I've been left at on a couple different occasions. It is not fun, so I always want to make sure horses are going to behave to get on and off at this gate. And what he's looking at here, you're going to see in a second. This pasture to the north is a pasture where we have coming twos, some 2-year-olds, coming threes, and there is a llama out there that thinks he's a stud horse. And this guy, Ambrose, never got turned out in this pasture with the llama, so I don't think he's ever seen the llama before. And I was really pretty happy with how he handled that llama, because that llama will scare the heck out of quite a few horses. And it really does get everybody else that's out in the pasture with him really broke and used to him and used to seeing kind of crazy stuff because of the shenanigans that thing does. But I like how this colt, this is just another test for him, walking in an adjacent pasture to these other horses that are loose, because you have to remember he was raised in a herd mentality, and so instinctively he's going to want to go with the herd. And I really didn't grasp or understand this concept until I moved to South Dakota. With these horses that are raised in a herd, turned out in a herd, and when you ride them the first time and they see the herd on the other side of that fence, it can be a precarious situation and sometimes pretty scary. Historically, since I've been here, I've only had a couple horses really lose it and drop my butt right where we were and left me to go with the herd, or stuff that just runs off scared of the herd. I have had a little gelding get scared of a stallion that was on the other side of that fence and run off with me. So there's been a few incidences over the years, hundreds of horses, but there's been a few incidences. So it's something I'm always concerned about in the back of my head. One thing I have noticed, though, I've experienced is a horse that was raised in a corral. He was able to handle pushing a herd of mares and their colts for several miles off to a summer pasture. And my only explanation for it, and he probably had 45 rides on him, and I think he was able to do that competently because he never had experienced a herd situation, and I had a good enough basic handle on him that he behaved himself for the entire the entire time we pushed those mares and colts to the other pasture. But I think something that is raised in a herd would have struggled a little bit more with that whole experience. Some of this debris that I'm walking over down here is washed out fence lines or fence lines that were replaced at some point. The rock formation that's here is from an old homestead that was down in this pasture roughly over 100 years ago. This pasture has been in the Lowing Ranch family for over 100 years now, and it's a pretty neat piece of history to be able to ride a horse that was raised here on the ranch, that started out in a program over 40 years ago. This guy, I believe he has 2 to 3 generations of mares that were raised here on his bottom side. So that's pretty significant. And I use this just like I would in a trail class. I have him step over everything. Sometimes I stop and have him back through. I try to do this with quite a few horses, and any opportunity to educate and practice something while you're outside of the arena, heck, I'll take it. And I'm trying to side pass him over this one fence post here, and he's not having it still. And this is just our nemesis. This is something we're going to have to work at, when I get back on him in the spring and summer of 2019. It's going to be one of the things that we work at a lot. But, for in your arena at home, if you don't have a log handy, I'd recommend a bucket. Everybody has buckets. Stick a bucket out there, stick a cone out there, lay a jacket on the ground, something teach them to side pass over something. That's one thing that I find that they struggle with. They can side pass usually just fine without an object underneath them, but then you stick an object underneath them, then visually I think they struggle with it. And it's one of the key things they have you do in a trail class or in a ranch horse versatility class is you'll step over a log, side pass, step over the next log, side pass back the other direction, do a back through, all of that stuff. Everything that works on your basic handle to see how well your four-wheel drive is on this horse. Lots of different terrain down here to look at, to step over, to walk through. Just, again, trying to expose him to as many things as I possibly can. And there's this spot here that I try to take him down, and he doesn't really want to go down it. And I know we've all experienced this where they don't want to go somewhere. And I'm not going to go to spanking on him or thumping on him. I'm going to try to keep on presenting it to him and see if he'll go forward, because he's pretty ambitious today and he decides not to. And so what I do is I circle him around and come back up it. And it doesn't work all the time for me, but it works most of the time for me. If I can walk them back up or through the spot that they don't want to go down, usually I can get them to go back down it for me after I've got them to walk up it. It happens, like I said, most of the time I can get it to work for me, not always, and I know everybody's not in the best position to be able to do that with their horse, but every once in a while it works. So it's just a matter of outsmarting them, presenting the situation from a different perspective. Sometimes that's all it takes. And at this stage, I just need to be able to give feedback to the owners, the breeders, the person that's going to ride them next, and go, okay, this horse is agreeable or he's not agreeable, or you need to present him the situation from a different angle and he'll get it. Or if you're going to pick a fight with him, you better pack a lunch. That's kind of just the feedback I need to be able to give somebody when I work on their horse, and that's all I'm trying to figure out when I ride them out like this. And don't forget, I rode him pretty fast the last time I took him out through this pasture. We went through at a pretty good clip, trotting and loping the whole way. And now he's walking really quietly, nod and bob. He has some ambition, but he's staying quiet about it through all of these new terrains that I'm taking him through. And what I like about that is it's telling me that what I have taught him up to this point is, there's a time and a place for speed, There's a time and a place to be quiet. I want him to hold his head about him and make good decisions when we're walking in terrain like this, because those sides of the creek there, they do get icy, they do get slippery, and I want him to take it slow and easy and figure out his own foot placement, because that's a wreck waiting to happen right there, and that's no fun when they slip and fall with you and you go down with the ship. Have you ever had a horse that takes the opportunity to speed up and then they blast on you when they're out in the pasture? I picked up on this with this colt here in a couple of these step overs and a couple of the drop offs. He picks up a little bit of speed when he jumps over a log or jumps down off the side of a little bank, but he only goes for a few strides and then he comes right back to me. And I attribute that to those games we played in the arena where, you know, we do a 360 or we do a roll away and you lope out of it and you lope for so many strides and then you come right back down to a trot or a walk. And it's just another form of down regulating. So we have a horse now that's capable of going fast and then coming back down, slowing down by his own choice. And I really like that. I just picked up on that now watching in these videos, you know, because I've been on those ones that, you know, when you step off of the side of the hill or you jump over a log and they take that opportunity to just kick it into high gear and then you're trying to stop them out in the middle of really bad footing, and that's no fun. And here's just another example of how you get them confident, opening them up and loping them across the pasture. And in the event he wanted to be speedy, I would just hang a left and take him up one of those hills. He'll slow down. Those hills always slow them down. Doesn't matter what they are, what age they are, how big or strong they are. They slow them down. And I can take that hill, every single one of those hills from north to south, if that's the case. But we've established a precedence for how we want him to behave when he rides out in wide open spaces. And he's confident in himself, and we've given him that confidence by doing it. You're not going to get this stuff done if you don't actually do it. This is one of my favorite draws to come up in this pasture. You know, you could either take it straight up the middle of it, or you can bank them back and forth. So go up a little bit up one side, come back down, go up a little bit the other way. It's great for conditioning. It's great for slowing something down that wants to be a little bit fast. And it really makes them pay attention to their footing, because there are these little washouts and there's quite a few rocks. So it gives us kind of a different visual to look at too as we're working it back and forth. And right here, I was getting too far out in front of H80, so he told me to go straight up the side of this hill. And I probably would never have asked this colt to do this in the beginning, but because of where we're at now in his riding, I went ahead and set him straight up the hill. And it's a pretty steep hill. And, you know, he doesn't play out on me, he doesn't quit me, and I really like that about him. There are some horses, and you can always tell a young one because they kind of quit on the way up and they get tired and they lose their balance a little bit and struggle. But this guy, he handled it the entire way up it. I don't do that too often unless somebody wants to be a jerk. You know, if you have a 4-year-old stud you're riding out here and they want to nicker the whole time, you bet they're going to go up and down these hills a bunch. But if they're just kind of being a nice guy and being pretty agreeable, they only have to do that every once in a while. Unless I'm conditioning my barrel horse, then I'll send her up it several times. For the most part, the rest of this ride is spent walking back home. A little bit of trotting here and there, but he's walking out quietly. We're going to start heading the direction home here shortly, and he's not in a big hurry. He's still moving out. He still has good work ethic, but he's not in a race to get back home. And we've established that from the beginning, that we're not in a race to get home, because otherwise there'll be more work to do, or he's just going to stand there tight anyway. So he keeps a level head about him, and when we get to some flat spots, we do trot just a little bit. But overall, he walks calmly and quietly the rest of the way home and back into the yard. Alright, we warmed up a little bit today. I forgot to show you the weather before we started, but it is 41 with a feels like of 34. So we got some pretty gnarly weather coming in the forecast, and I'm not sure we're gonna make it to ride 20, but we're pretty happy with 19 rides on this colt and what he's doing. He is riding in and out. He's pretty confident riding in and out. This guy has walked, trot, and loped it, big circles, small circles, picked up correct leads both directions. He's done flying lead changes. He does a turn on the forehand. He does a side pass. He does a turn on the haunches. He does a roll away, an inside roll out the opposite lead, a 360. He backs up. He handles a rope. He's drug a log. He's been exposed to a sorting stick flag. I can mount and dismount from either side. He's been safe for me to get on without being warmed up at all, just saddling him and going. He's been good for me at the gate to walk in and out of the pastures. He's been great around the dogs, the pheasants flying out. He hasn't offered to buck at all. And I've been really, really pleased with this horse. You know, I don't know if you're gonna find many horses that at this stage is gonna be able to do all that and still be able to open and close gates. And most horses that come through my program are gonna be able to do all that stuff. That's the kind of time I take to get these guys taught the basics and get them through the curriculum. So I'm really, really pleased with where this guy's at in his life and his short time on this earth. And he'll be back in the summertime. If we don't make it to one more ride, he'll be back in next summer, and I'll put a little more time on him and a little more finish on him and work on those places where we had a little bit of problems along the last 19 rides, and it'll all be okay and it'll all work out. And we've got a great foundation now to work with and a great place to go on with. And if I don't get to him, somebody else will, and somebody else has a great place to start on a horse like this. So he's got a bright future ahead of him, so keep your eye out for him in the future, all right? Thanks for watching. I sure appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the last 19 rides. Have a good one.